The morning mist curled lazily across the pond, a thin veil of silver that made the water look like glass. My lodge sat on the bank, its timber frame weathered but strong, a place my grandfather built with his own hands. It was more than property, it was heritage. Every board and stone carried memories of my family. That's why the phone call I received nearly made my heart stop. "Sir," the county clerk said carefully, "we're calling to confirm transfer of ownership for your pondside lodge. The buyers signed HOA paperwork yesterday." I nearly dropped the phone. Transfer of ownership? That's impossible. I never sold the lodge. But the clerk's voice was grim. "According to the documents, the HOA sold it on your behalf. Cash deal, expedited process. Title already updated." For a long moment, I stood frozen, rage boiling up. The HOA had overstepped before: harassment, fines, even physical intimidation. But this? Selling my property without my consent? That was theft at the highest level. I didn't waste time. I called my attorney, then grabbed the thick folder of deeds, tax receipts, and proof of ownership I kept locked in a safe. The paperwork was flawless, clean chain of title, no liens, no outstanding disputes. By the time I reached the county office, the so-called buyer was already there. A smug businessman shaking hands with HOA Karen. She was practically glowing, clipboard tucked under her arm like a crown. When she saw me, her smile vanished. "You can't be here," she snapped. "This property isn't yours anymore." I slammed the deed down on the counter so hard the clerk jumped. "That's my grandfather's lodge, and here's proof. You had no authority, no right, and no legal standing to sell it. You've committed fraud." The buyer looked from me to the documents, uncertainty creeping into his eyes. "Karen, you told me this was community property, that you had board approval." Karen's voice cracked as she scrambled to recover. "It is. He's just being difficult. The HOA governs this land, and he's been resisting compliance. We had the right to—" The clerk cut her off, voice sharp. "Ma'am, HOAs don't have the authority to sell privately owned land. This sale is invalid on its face. And given Mr. Jensen's proof of ownership, this matter just crossed into criminal fraud." The buyer cursed under his breath, realizing he'd been duped. He tore the contract from Karen's hands. "You tricked me into paying for land you didn't own. Do you know what kind of lawsuit this will bring?" Karen's face turned ashen. She sputtered, searching for words, but the clerk was already dialing the sheriff's office. Within 20 minutes, deputies stormed the office. I handed them copies of the deed, tax records, and the fraudulent contract. They didn't hesitate. Karen was cuffed on the spot, her shrill protests echoing through the lobby. "You can't do this. I'm the president of the HOA. This is all a misunderstanding." One deputy tightened the cuffs, his patience thin. "You forged a property transfer. That's not a misunderstanding. That's grand larceny." Neighbors heard the story before I even got home. Word traveled fast. Some were shocked, but most weren't. Karen had ruled with arrogance for too long, bullying and manipulating anyone in her way. This time, she had gone too far. The case escalated quickly. Prosecutors seized HOA records, exposing a trail of shady transactions. Funds siphoned, false fines imposed, maintenance budgets that mysteriously vanished. The entire board was dragged into court, each one scrambling to cut deals. As for Karen, she faced years in prison. Her empire of intimidation collapsed in a matter of weeks. Standing on the lodge porch one evening, I watched the sun sink behind the pines. My spouse joined me, resting their head against my shoulder. "It's over now," they whispered. I nodded slowly. "For Karen, maybe, but we'll stay ready. This place, this lodge, will always be worth fighting for." The pond shimmered in the twilight, peaceful once more. My grandfather's legacy had survived yet another assault, stronger than the lies and greed that tried to take it. And Karen? She had chosen the wrong adversary. The law had spoken, and her downfall was complete.